Don't look now, but here are 11 scary books that won't let you sleep for nights. You'll probably agree that the scariest types of books are psychological horrors. You know, the ones that get in your head and keep you on your toes, where fear is evoked from inexplicable mysteries and paranoia. You can't sleep with the lights off for days after reading such a book. If you've never enjoyed the thrill of this sort of reading, then have I got some recommendations for you. And don't worry, no spoilers ahead. But before you learn about some of the scariest stories of all time, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to join us on the bright side. Now, let's kick this list off with the king of horror, Mr. King himself. Number 11. Mystery by Stephen King. Do you know what happens when an insane woman becomes obsessed with a writer's story? When Paul Sheldon, an author of Victorian-era romance novels, gets into a road accident during a snowstorm, he doesn't have a clue who his seemingly kind-hearted rescuer really is and what she's capable of. Annie Wilkes, an ex-nurse, is Mr. Sheldon's biggest fan. However, she's unhappy with how his latest book ended. Well, perhaps unhappy doesn't quite do it justice. Let's just say she'll stop at nothing to get her favorite writer to change the story's ending and fix the damage. Believe me, you wouldn't want to end up in this poor man's shoes. Number 10. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. On a remote island far away from the mainland, there are the charred ruins of a building that was once an orphanage. Tragically, it went up in flames after a bomb strike many years ago, leaving no survivors. But when 16-year-old Jacob explores the crumbling construction, he finds out that this wasn't your typical children's home, and its inhabitants were anything but usual. They may have been sent to the remote island for a reason, and in some sense, they may be still alive. As soon as Jacob realizes this, his spine-chilling adventures begin. Number 9. Pet Sematary by Stephen King. There's a special cemetery in the small town of Ludlow, where locals bury their pets that have passed away. Nothing strange, you say? But what if I tell you that this cemetery hides a terrifying mystery? Whatever is buried there soon comes back to life. Unfortunately, not as it used to be, but something a lot more grotesque. So, a doctor, his wife, their 2 children, and the family cat move into an old house in the town, knowing nothing about this secret at first. They're the perfect happy family. But when tragedy strikes, the father makes a regrettable decision, and an already horrible situation turns into a real nightmare. But you gotta read the book for all the gruesome details. Number 8. House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. When a young family moves into a house on Ash Tree Lane, they don't know that this will be the worst decision of their life. Seems like a repeating pattern, doesn't it? First of all, the house is much spacier on the inside than it looks from the outside. Ooh, convenient, right? You wouldn't think so if it was your little kids who wandered off into the depths of this strange home. After that, the children's voices start to narrate horrible tales about an ever-growing abyss behind a closet door, about creatures born by the darkness, and about the growl that will soon tear through the house and consume all the living souls within. Yikes, sounds like nightmare fuel to me. Number 7. The Ruins by Scott Smith. A group of young people are searching for an archaeological site in Mexico. A friend of theirs has set up camp somewhere in the jungle. Eventually, they come across the location. Lonely and looming over the trees, an ancient pyramid is standing in the heart of the forest. It's covered in bizarre vines, and the land on the clearing is barren and salted. Oddly enough, there's nobody around. When the friends climb the pyramid, they come upon a horrible sight. Shocked and confused by their finding, the young people try to flee the place. No such luck. Armed locals from a nearby village force them to remain on the pyramid. Unlike the travelers, the natives know that anyone who's climbed the pyramid is doomed. But you'll have to read the book to find out what happens to these unfortunate souls. Number 6. The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Haunted houses are traditionally at the top of all horror fiction lists. But this book takes the very concept of the haunted house to a whole new level. The house in this story seems to have its own angry and sentient mind. But that's not the scariest part. Eleanor, the narrator of the story, seems reliable and relatable enough for the reader to trust her. But this only evokes a false sense of security. And since the woman's descent into the abyss of claustrophobia and insanity progresses slowly and almost unnoticeably, this story may affect you more than you'd expect. Number 5. The Shining by Stephen King. Jack Torrance, a writer who suffers from alcoholism, gets a new job as an off-season caretaker of a hotel in wintry Colorado. His wife Wendy and little son Danny come along to this remote location. The family is hoping for a new fresh start. Everything seems to be going smoothly, at least until all the guests leave and Jack's family remain as the only inhabitants of the hotel. That's when things start going south for little Danny. The boy, gifted with telepathic powers, experiences the unprecedented horror of seeing and communicating with the ghosts of the hotel. But these cursed souls aren't the most terrifying thing that can happen to the family. Just wait, the worst is yet to come. Number 4. We'll Never Be Apart by Emiko Jean. A 17-year-old girl named Alice has had it rough in life. But despite her family troubles, she manages to find some normalcy and even love. Now she's locked in a psychiatric hospital, driven crazy after her arsonist twin sister killed her boyfriend. During her long and boring days in the hospital, Alice writes down her dreams of getting revenge. But when she makes friends with another patient, some memories begin to resurface. It seems that the girl's mind has mixed up fact and fiction. Then, what is the true story? Give it a read to find out. Number 3. A Brief Lunacy by Cynthia Thayer. Carl and Jessie Jensen have been together for 40 happy years. But their cozy, peaceful life comes to an abrupt end when they let a stranger into their home. The man appears at the door of the couple's cabin asking for help. Kind-heartedly, Carl and Jessie offer to let him use their phone and even invite him to stay for dinner. However, it doesn't take long for the couple to realize that they've made a fatal mistake. The mysterious man knows a lot more about the Jensens than a stranger is supposed to. It turns out, he's not just some normal guy looking for a helping hand. Carl and Jessie will have to try hard to win at this captor's crazy psychological games. Number 2. It by Stephen King. Seven kids live an ordinary life in Derry, Maine. That is, until the tranquility of their existence is interrupted one day. After that, nothing is ever going to be the same again for this group of friends. The children are stalked and terrorized by something only known as It. It's a supernatural entity that can disguise itself and appear seemingly out of nowhere. But the preferred form of this being is an evil clown that preys on the kids and feeds on their darkest fears. It turns out that it has been petrifying the town for centuries. The beast appears once every 27 years, wreaking havoc and destruction. Will anyone manage to survive when it comes next time? Number 1. Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. After a short stay in a mental hospital, boy that comes up a lot, doesn't it? Reporter Camille Preaker is sent out on a troubling trip. She has to go back to her hometown to write about a local tragedy that's recently happened. Camille hasn't visited her neurotic mother for many years, and she doesn't know her half-sister all that well. This striking 13-year-old girl has an eerie and mysterious grip on the whole town. If Camille wants to get to the truth behind the story she's covering and survive her own homecoming, she's going to need to crack the puzzle of her own past. Wow. Now, of course, there's my personal favorite sleepless book, titled Goodnight Moon by Margaret Wise Brown. Oh, it's a classic all right, but it's not at all scary. The bunny just says goodnight to everything in the room, and I mean everything. The problem comes when the child wants you to read it again, and again, and again, and nobody gets any sleep. Maybe this should be in another video. So, okay, which of these books have you read or are planning to read first? Let us know down in the comments. Remember to give this video a like, share it with all your bookworm friends, and subscribe to stay on the bright side of life.